Hello everyone, welcome to Steno 24/7, where I try to fulfill all of your dictation needs. Now this will be where we're working on this dictation here is going to be the state of Wisconsin versus Stephen Avery. We are still on Mr. Kratz's opening statement. That's where we left off. And we will pick back up on page 85, verse 11. And as I said, Mr. Kratz is still speaking. This will be slow. There's not going to be any fast speeds here. I'll try to make it pretty slow, but not too slow. So you ready? Video 16, Stephen Avery, State of Wisconsin versus Stephen Avery. Here we go. Let's write. This cut was actively bleeding on the 31st of October, and I guess, thankfully, for the state. And as a jury, I hope at the conclusion of this case, you will say thankfully for you, because DNA analysis was then possible because of his actively bleeding, of his leaving his DNA behind inside of Teresa's vehicle. Miss Colhane will tell you that the defendant's blood was found in at least 6 places in Teresa's Halbach's SUV, including the rear passenger door, smeared or wiped on the rear passenger door. Okay, there's a front door. There's a back door, kind of like a 4-door car. It was in the back door, and it's along the edge or along the metal of the rear passenger door. That's Stephen Avery's blood. That's how much blood he left on the side of the door. We have heard about the defendant's blood on the ignition that positively matched that of Stephen Avery. As you think about this case, and I will argue at the end of the case, but there isn't any secret, and the defense understands this is as well. An actively bleeding middle right finger. And when you look at the when you look at the smear, kind of visualize turning the ignition and how that can smear from the outside of the middle finger and leave that particular kind of DNA evidence. Other places that the defendant bled inside of the victim's car included blood on her CD case in her front seat. Both front seats had droplets of Mr. Avery's blood on it. The rear tailgate, remember I told you there was a droplet of Teresa's blood, semicolon. Because Mr. Avery is actively bleeding, comma, there is a droplet of his blood as well. And also, on the front console floor is kind of up in that particular area. Sherry Colhane and Mr. Gahn are better able to explain all those for you, comma, but it's important for you to know. Now, comma, again, comma, the jigsaw puzzle, comma, when you hear the evidence and when you have to decide who killed Teresa Halbach, comma, this evidence points to one person. Now, comma, Mr. Gahn and his questioning, comma, and Miss Colhane is going to tell you, comma, that DNA evidence, comma, again, comma, is not just from blood. It can be from skin cells which are left through perspiration, comma, sweat, comma, okay, comma, saliva and sweat and all those other kinds of bodily fluids that we talked about. So when somebody's hands are sweating and you handle something, comma, it's possible that you can leave your DNA on that thing that you handled. You heard a suggestion already in which there will be evidence in this case that the battery was disconnected on Miss Halbach's vehicle. We'll tell you, or at least we'll argue as to why that happened. But importantly, in reaching up underneath the hood, comma, to open up Teresa Halbach's vehicle, comma, Mr. Avery was kind enough to leave his DNA on the hood latch. Okay. That will come from Sherry Colhane as well. In handling Miss Halbach's key that starts the ignition and putting it into his bedroom, Mr. Avery was kind enough to leave his DNA on that portion of the Toyota key that was found. So that's part of the science. Other science is going to include things like teeth, comma, teeth that were recovered from the burn area. This part of the science, comma, by the way, comma, will be handled by Mr. Fallon, comma, and other expert witnesses. But most importantly, comma, through somebody called a forensic odontologist. That's a big word. Kind of scared me when I first heard it. Gentleman's name is Donald Simley. Mr. Simley is an odontologist. From a forensic standpoint, it's kind of a dentist who matches stuff up. So Mr. or Dr. Simley, the dentist, the odontologist, will show you what's called a Paronex X-ray. We went to Teresa's dentist. We got her x-rays from when she had work done. And Mr. Simley will show you tooth number 31, comma, which is the second last tooth in the bottom left jaw. I'm going to speed up this dictation. Dr. Simley will also tell you that x-rays were taken of teeth that were found from the burn area. He will show you tooth number 31 that was actually recovered from the burn area, and will allow the jury to make their own comparisons. We talked about an anthropologist. Our anthropologist is Dr. Leslie Eisenberg. Dr. Eisenberg will tell you about her credentials, about how she does this whole kind of work. And although, unfortunately, the bones that she had to deal with, and again, we aren't talking about a full skeleton that was found in that bone pit. If we did, by the way, we may not be including a charge against Mr. Avery for mutilation of a corpse, but a mutilation of this little girl, not this little girl, but this young woman, absolutely occurred. Because this is what's left, small tiny pieces of bone fragment. And when you talk about a jigsaw puzzle, when you talk about trying to put all of this together, it's a very, very difficult process. And when I asked, and the testimony actually of Mr. Eisenberg is going to allude to this jigsaw puzzle kind of analogy, and we don't even have a box or a cover to go on. Luckily for us and luckily for you, Leslie Eisenberg is your jigsaw puzzle covered box. In other words, Dr. Eisenberg knows where every one of these bones goes. Dr. Eisenberg will identify all of these bone fragments. She'll identify from a female skeleton and from examples that are used all of the different parts of Teresa that were found. Okay. And it will help you as far as identification processes go, as to what parts of Teresa's bones and what parts of the body were actually recovered in this case. Now all evidence is of equal weight, and two really important pieces of bone that were found. And those were two pieces of what are called the cranium, the skull, that were burned very, very badly, but were identified as such by Dr. Eisenberg. The parts of the skull, this picture that you are looking at is actually a part of the skull now. This brilliant woman is going to tell you that this isn't just part of the skull, but this is a little piece of the skull that's just on top of or over somebody's left ear. How do you tell that kind of thing looking at a bone like that? But that's what an anthropologist apparently does. And that's why she's an expert and we're not in this area. But importantly, the damage, the defect that's caused, the evidence is going to show that you are looking at the inside, from the inside out, the inside of Teresa's skull out. That the circular or half circle, because this isn't the full piece, this is half of the important piece here, is extremely important. The defect, the damage here, the testimony will be, is caused by a high velocity projectile. We take this same bone fragment, and you are going to hear evidence about other experts, and it allows some other analysis of this particular piece of bone, this particular piece of cranium. You are going to hear from a gentleman by the name of Ken Olson from the crime lab. He is an expert in trace evidence, the CSI kind of stuff, but the trace from an elemental standpoint. When you x-ray something, the evidence is going to show bone and other kinds of vascular or veins and things show up after you x-ray even a burned piece of bone. But what also shows up are things that don't burn up. Alright, when Mr. Olson testifies, he's going to point to these little bright dots. See those okay from here? Those little bright dots that are right on the lip of the cranial defect. And we will stop right there on page 91. I'm sorry, 92, verse 5. And that will be video 17. So I'm sorry about the rain. I hope that didn't distract you. Can't do much about it. We've been having crazy weather here in Florida lately. You know, one day it's hot and sunny, and then the next day, you know, it rains, or it rains every afternoon. And right now it's night and it's just pouring down. So not much I can do about it. But if you have a problem hearing this, please leave me a comment at the bottom of this video, and I'll be more than happy to do it over for you guys. So, you know, much love, much peace to everyone. I love everyone. Stay safe until I see you at the next video.